let's talk about a Catholic approach to healing. Hey, I'm Father Mark Mary with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, and this is Ascension Presents. You've probably heard a lot about healing, or people talking about this, about going into their wounds and looking at their wounds and giving their wounds to Jesus and pursuing healing, right? And so what I want to talk about today is like some best practices, some do's and don'ts, some expectations, perhaps like what to avoid in our approach to healing. And I think you'll notice like a theme through it, a thread, is going to be this sort of Catholic approach of of both and. The first thing I want to talk about is sort of the role that healing plays in our spiritual life, in our thinking, in our prayer. And so we're going to want to avoid two things, right? Like overemphasizing or downplaying, right? And so overemphasizing sort of our healing journey would probably look twofold. Number one, like we don't want to reduce our journey with Jesus, our relationship with Jesus, to our healing, right? So there is absolutely a space for this. And depending on our state of life, like it may be something that we do actually really want to lean into and focus on, but we don't want to reduce all of our time and all of our energy and all of our conversation with the Lord to healing, right? We want to continue in our prayer to make sure we leave space. Also, just keep learning about who Jesus is, right? We want to invite Jesus in. We want to bring stuff to the surface in an appropriate way, hopefully with some good guidance, 100%. But we still want to always be learning about who Jesus is, because the deepest truths about ourselves are going to be revealed by actually getting to know just who God is in the heart of God. And that's actually going to be indirectly a source of a lot of healing. And a second little practice to sort of check that, again, we're not reducing our spiritual life to healing, is just making sure that we always have some space for acts of charity, some space in which we're looking out for other people. I think AA has a beautiful practice of it, right? Like those who are in AA are working through sort of addiction and all that goes into that. But also there's a part of it where they're invited to also be sponsors for others, right? Where they're invited to have some sort of action where they're now giving and helping out other people. Because when we're looking at healing, because it is something internal, we can become a little bit too hyper-focused or self-focused, right? And we just want to make sure there's some space and some activity where we're very concretely making sure that even with whatever we're going through, that there's still some space on the journey to make sure that we're loving and reaching out to other people. What we also want to avoid, right, is like downplaying it, is thinking it's kind of below us, or it's healing is something for like soft people. Like I don't need that. I don't need healing, right? It's too lovey-dovey or emotional or saccharine or whatever. And I think we want to avoid that as well, right? We know that grace builds upon nature, and that our growing in our spiritual life is 100% important, but also our nature, our emotions. Our novices, for example, they receive a course on the emotions. And one of the reasons they receive this course on the emotions is that we've seen over time that many religious, many priests and many people, actually one of the areas that ends up getting them in trouble down the road isn't their sincerity or of their discipleship, but it's their inability to understand and well manage like their emotions, which, right, is in part because of some bad habits or some trauma or whatever it is that they experienced growing up. And so while we don't want to overemphasize and hyper-focus, again, and reduce the spiritual life to healing, we also want to be open to the fact that we do have wounds and we do have some brokenness, and we probably all have, right, some areas where we ought to kind of invite the Lord and allow His healing hand and His healing touch to restore us and renew us. You know, and practically, like at the very least, can in some space of prayer, can you say, hey, Lord, like if you do want me to have some healing, if you do want this to be something that I kind of look at with you, I just give you permission to take me there, right? You don't have to go like 110% wholehearted into it, like especially if that's just not where you feel drawn. But let's just give the Lord permission to lead us wherever He wants us to go. Now the second question that we have to navigate, right, is do we root it out or do we offer it up? And again, there's going to be this sort of way in which we want to do both. I do think ordinarily it's appropriate and prudent and good if you have some sort of physical interior struggle or woundedness or sickness to seek help and to seek healing. I do think that is almost always going to be the right thing to do. So, right, if you have some sort of pain in your leg or your hip or your knee that's making it hard to walk, like, let's go ahead and make a doctor appointment, right? Let's go ahead and have it checked out to see what's going on there. Similarly, our wounds and injuries that might be on the interior, right? Like, yeah, it's good. It's good as well to go and to seek some sort of professional help to help see how you can make progress in healing. And it is something that I come across sometimes, and it actually makes me very sad, where someone can be experiencing some sort of pain, psychological anxiety, something like a substance issue, or like something with food and eating, self-image, things like that. And there are some people who might think like, this is what the Lord is asking me to suffer. And so what I need to do is just like accept it as it is and just offer it up. And we'll touch on that in a second. But I think, like, I really feel confident, like, hey, let's bring this to the Lord and to professionals and get healed. Like, whatever our stuff is, right? It's good and ordinary and appropriate to first and foremost to try and, if you will, root it out, to try and get help and to try and get healed. Okay. Now, in that process, and as time goes on, as these symptoms perdure, yes, in those times we do offer them up. Right? We do say, Lord, okay, I receive whatever you give, Lord. I'm totally radically surrendered to you and your providence. We can keep praying for healing, but at the same time, we also are always invited in the midst of our suffering to unite it to Jesus' own suffering and offering it to the Father. So again, we're going to want this both and. And again, like, if you're experiencing something psychological, emotional, etc., let's go ahead and get that checked out. Like, let's go ahead and make some actions towards getting that healed, and inviting the Lord into it as well, right? While it perdures, while it endures, let's offer it up. Okay, both and. Now thirdly, question, do we try and get healing from Jesus, spiritually in prayer? Do we try and get healing from doctors and experts, etc.? And I bet you guessed it, the answer is going to be both and, right? We absolutely, 100%, we have Jesus in the gospel healing people, right? And so we do, like, our first steps in our prayers are, let's bring it to the Lord. Let's bring it to the Lord in prayer. Simultaneously, right? This doesn't mean you have to like let time pass before you bring it to a professional, but like simultaneously, let's also get professional help. We both pray and we make appointments to go to the doctor. And now lastly, like some expectations. You can experience or have experienced something and it's really affected you and really hurt you, and you're acutely aware of some sort of interior struggle and woundedness you have, right? And you want to be healed and you want to be labeled, right? Like, I am a healed person, what can we expect? And I do think part of it is, I believe I'm quoting her properly. Sister Miriam does some healing stuff with our postulants. It's something like this, like, healing is a process, not an event, or healing's a journey, not an event, right? Like, typically, in almost in all cases, and we're gonna assume so for most of us, right? Like, healing doesn't just happen like that. It's not just I pray to the Lord and I'm good, or I go to therapy for a couple months and I'm good. Like, we're signing up for a lifetime journey of healing, and I really believe that all of us, the Lord wants to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper in healing us, the areas of identity and who we are, and in revealing who He is, right? Like, it is this ongoing journey. There's a brother who talked about, we have this huge building where I'm actually recording here, and he was in charge of it. And he made this comment, he's like, when I was working on this building and being in charge of it for a couple of years, it made sense to me why it's called a building and not a built, right? Because there's always something. There's always a leak. There's always a door that needs to get fixed. There's always some electricity. There's always an update. There's always something that needs to be addressed and taken care of, right? And I think we are human beings. We're buildings, not built. And we're always going to be on this journey of ongoing renewal and conversion, but also healing. I think it's this beautiful thing of like AA of you might be 16 years, 20 years, 25 years sober, but there's still this understanding that it's one day at a time. It's one day at a time, right? And we keep working, we keep working. And I think it's similar for a variety of healing. Yeah, okay, like I might not have had this struggle or that struggle for a long time, but we don't give up vigilance. We kind of keep doing the work with the Lord, right? We keep on this path of ongoing healing. And just this last thing, I think part of why we want to get to this place of healed, right, is because we don't want this to be part of us anymore, you know. And just so you know, like all of us, who we are, right, who we are and who the Lord sees us is not as broken, but as His beloved, right? We are beloved of the Lord Jesus Christ, like where we're at. And to be beloveds of Him and to be loved by Him and to be blessed in Him, it doesn't require us to get all of our stuff together. Like we're just loved where we're at, and He's patient with us and He's with us on the journey. And so my brothers and sisters, like if you've been on a healing journey for a while and you're just kind of exhausted and you really just want to be done and you want to be healed and you don't want this to be part of who you are, like let's persevere. Let's keep asking the Lord's help. But also, I just want you to know, like, this does not define you. The brokenness does not define you. Like, your belovedness defines you. Who you are in Jesus' eyes is beloved. So I thank you so much. I ask for your prayers as I continue my journey. I'll pray for you as you continue your journey. Again, we're buildings not built. Ongoing renewal, ongoing healing with the Lord Jesus. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for watching. Look forward to being with you again next week. Remember, we are pilgrims on this earth. Somos peregrinos, poco a poco. Little by little, vamos a llegar. We're going to make it. God bless everybody.